hold on. Let me pull up Sergei's. Let me pull up his notes. Right there. Let me get After Effects on and open. And okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tips and Tricks Tuesdays with me, Valentina V. If you can hear me, if you can see me, then write the code word giraffe in the chat room. That way I'll know that this is all working. I have you right here so I can check. Today is a little bit of a different day. If you've been here for any of the previous 19 weeks, I have been live switching this operation myself. Today we have Caroline, who is the woman behind the curtain. So say hello to Caroline in the chat room, everybody. She is going to be live switching. This is our first time doing it this way. So if there are technical blips, if anything happens, if it drops, who knows what might happen? We're doing it live. So if anything happens, bear with us and we'll get through this. We will be a fine oiled machine. A couple of things. First of all, thank you so much for coming and watching this. This is going to be a 15-minute interview plus a 45-minute tutorial. I do these every single week on Tuesdays. And if you go to adobe.ly/tipstuesday, you will be able to not only rewatch this recording, but also get the full PDF manual that I make every single week. And that manual will allow you to be able to download all of the notes for today's lesson. Oh, looks like my microphone was on throughout the intro. Awesome. It's fine. That happens sometimes. Like I said, this is our first time doing the live. So also at adobe.ly, you will be able to, if you enter your information in there, you will be able to get a chance to enter and win a full year of Creative Cloud. Last week's winner is Sean Hughes. Congratulations to Sean. You have won a full year of Creative Cloud on us. So go ahead and go to adobe.ly/tipstuesday, which is right here, and you will be able to see it there. I have the immense pleasure of introducing my guest for today's live stream. He is the man behind Ukramedia, which is a company, a production company, a YouTube channel. He works for Fox Sports, making a lot of their graphics, but he also is kind enough to share his top tips on the internet and be an educator like me, actually. So we are both professionals working in the field and educators. So I think we have a lot in common. We have a lot to talk about. So please welcome Sergei from Ukramedia. Hey.
Hey, thanks for having me on. This is awesome.
You're welcome. Thanks for saying yes. This is like so different for me because I'm not like switching things. So it's going to be interesting. So
we're in it together. It's going to be fun.
We're in it together. It's going live. For those who don't know, I think I gave like a brief intro to what you do, but if you could maybe expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's interesting because we're a lot of things. I started out doing motion graphics and, eventually I love sports graphics, so I create sports graphics. But in the process, I've developed a lot of, basically have a lot of tips and tricks that I kind of gain over the years. And I was kind of had a hard time getting into the industry. So I decided to create a YouTube channel and try to come up with the name. Ukramedia was just something me and my twin brother came up with early on. It seemed like a good idea because we're from Ukraine. We love media. We didn't speak any English. It just seemed like a good thing to go with. So Ukramedia became a name, but I didn't realize it was going to be a YouTube channel name. So I was just looking for a YouTube name, and that's what came up. And we went with it, and the rest is history. And we teach a lot of motion graphic tips and tricks. We create tools now. I do a lot of scripts. So it's a lot of things. We educate. We also develop tools for motion designers. And I still do a lot of stuff with Fox Sports. I love them. They're like my family. They're like 7 minutes down the road here in Charlotte. So it's a lot of fun.
Now, you said that you also do this thing where people at Fox Sports or people built in who have built in sort of graphics that they create either on Photoshop or on Illustrator or something like that, they will actually contact you to redo their graphics templates into editable templates for something like Premiere Pro, right? That is a fairly new process, and that's something that you're asked to do quite frequently.
Yeah, I got into it because, I did After Effects stuff a lot. And, it probably is, as many of you watching to know that it's a lot of like sports graphics, especially. There's a lot of different versions, different colors. It's the same design. You just have to create it for different teams. And if you have a league, 30 some teams, I mean, it's a headache turning things on, going in this comp. And so early on, I kind of started using expressions to rig things in After Effects. And that was a lot of fun. But then you're like, I'm still in the picture. Like, how can I get myself out of it? So I started creating more complex templates. And then Mogarts came out. And I was on the pre-release team then. I was excited. I'm like, yes, I'll be showing to Fox. I'm like, look, this is what's going to be possible with Premiere. But the problem with corporate America, a lot of times they're like 2 versions behind on a lot of software tools. And so I couldn't use it for a while. But then I eventually kind of transitioned into showing them, look, you can do the same thing I'm doing in After Effects in Premiere. And now you can just rig it, take the time to actually rig it, and then you just hand it off to like a template to an editor, and then they can do whatever they want with it. They can choose different colors, different teams, and when they just pick a team, everything adjusts. And it's a no-brainer because now I can actually focus on what I love, what we all love the most, and that is creating content, creating stuff. And so, yeah, I think it's an amazing switch that Adobe made with Premiere Pro, Mogarts, motion graphic templates, and I'm excited. I think the future is just getting brighter and brighter with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know that Mogarts exist, but also they don't know that they could create Mogarts and how easy it is. So that is part of what you and I are both doing, is giving that education to people so that they can enable themselves to create these templates and make their content look a lot more professional. By the way, in the chat room, if you have any questions for Sergei, I am monitoring it so I can ask him. It doesn't have to just be a back and forth. You can also join in. Now, for those people who are, maybe they want to become professional motion graphics artists, maybe this tutorial on Mogarts fuels them to get more into it. Could you maybe explain, how did you get into working with Fox? I mean, that was like your ultimate, like you wanted to make sports graphics and now you're making sports graphics. How did you accomplish that goal?
Yeah, it's a journey. I got into it because I moved to US, didn't speak English, and I learned Adobe before I learned English. So it was something I always did. So that was a part of me, the whole creating content on the computer, because I was a nerd, didn't have any friends, because obviously I didn't speak the language. So I love that part. But I was also a pretty good soccer player, and I love that part as well. So I wanted to combine two of my favorite passions, is soccer and, well, sports in general, and graphics. So my ultimate goal was like, I want to do sports graphics for, something like Fox Sports. But it wasn't an easy journey. I dove into the industry. I got, worked on creative agencies, video production companies, you name it. I've done it all. And eventually, like I applied it a few times, got rejected. But then my last one, I didn't even try. I just kind of like, hey, here's my work. I'm hungry for this. I'm a huge sports fan. I'd love to be a part of the team. And before you know it, they got me to Charlotte, and I love the team now. I got to know a lot of the people at Fox, and they're like my family. I really, I quit Fox 2-3 years ago to do Ukramedia, but I'm there more often than people think. I just can never leave because they're so amazing. Like it's like a family to me. I love being back, and anytime they call me, I can't say no. I always go back. I
Wait a
still got to
second.
work in Super Bowl and everything. It was great.
I mean, you said you didn't even try, but you clearly did something for them
Yeah.
to like you, right?
Oh, so when I say I didn't even try, before it was like a lot of, you had to fill out a bunch of stuff, and, you had to do the essay and all. But now when I saw the like the thing pop up, like they're hiring, I just literally just sent an email with my link. But I was strategic about how I did it because I learned something about fear. Like everyone that has to hire somebody, they have this healthy fear. They're like, listen, it's a risk we're taking to take someone on. So when they're hiring somebody, it's great that you have like all these artistic stuff, but if it doesn't speak their language, then you're kind of in trouble. So I realized, I'm like, okay, if I create content for my reel that is similar to what they already are doing, then it would eliminate a lot of fears. So I would just purposely do like a 5-second projects to where I would do like 3D stuff, sports stuff. And I did that for months and months. And eventually I put a reel together with all the stuff that I know they're looking for. And maybe it wasn't the best reel in the world, but it eliminated a lot of fears that our company has. And now being a business owner, I understand that when you hire somebody, you want to take someone. It's great that they're all great at a lot of things, but you want to take someone who gets all of your fears out of the way, and then you can hire them. So that was a strategic move. I put a reel together specifically for Fox.
Yeah, I think it's very important to put something that the client wants to see. They want to make sure that you can do the thing that you told them that you could do. So making a specific reel for a specific client is super important. I am checking the chat room here, and I noticed that my actual video looks very weird. Like it's like a gray box, and I'm not sure. Maybe Caroline, if you could switch it to the side by side, if that'll change things. Looks like my feed is cutting in and out. We're doing it live. No, I think they heard you. Switch it to like a different view. Maybe that will help. We'll see. Okay, no, am I back? Because it looks like I'm still a gray box. But let's see. What can I do to help with this? Maybe I can do that, maybe? There we go. Okay, we're back. Hi, everybody. I'm back. Welcome to Purple Land and Yellow Shirt Face. So, Sergei, when you build a graphic, I know the graphics that you build are super complex because you have all these different teams that you're building in with the different colors. Maybe you're doing a lot of dynamic kind of timing and scaling. Is there...
I think we lost her.
Make sure. Oh, can you hear me?
I heard some of it. I didn't hear the last part.
Okay.
When you're creating graphics, you said something about complex, and then...
Oh, I said when you are creating complex graphics, do you usually have like some sort of wireframe draft, a plan, a shot list? Like how, because they're so complex, you don't want to just like go in and start making them right away, right?
You talk about for Mogerts or just in general, like for graphics?
Just packages? In general, yeah, for graphics.
It's a big team effort. That's what's so cool about Fox. They're such a good team. They have such a good workflow. Like especially, I can only relate to the one in Charlotte. That's where I did most of the stuff. But they're run so well, and the way they have stages, just like anybody else. We have the mood boards, the concepts. So you would first go through different concepts. You would design like, hey, this is the concept. You would go, and spend time developing different frames and stuff like that. There were times where we went through like 9 concepts for the last MLB graphics package. And,
oh, wow.
You can be shut down. It's a tiring process because, essentially you take them to the far left and then far right, and usually you meet in the middle. So you kind of show like something crazy on the left and something crazy on the right. You throw a lot at them, and let's say at them, like at the creative director or people that are making decisions, and then they can kind of decide the direction. And once the direction is decided, then we have more concepts. Like this is what a bumper would look like. This is what, and it's interesting. You develop different techniques for sports graphics. You want to have everything big, humongous, and you want to lower the camera down. You want to make. There's always this challenge. How can I make this quicker? Because the text shows up so fast. You need to grab their attention right away and show the bigness of it. And so, I developed things like I mentioned it to you before, to where I would put something that people can relate size-wise. Text doesn't, it might not look big, even though it's 3D. It might still look small until you put something people can relate to, like a little helmet or something, or a little person's walking to the small text, and all of a sudden it registers in your brain like, holy cow, this text is humongous. And that's how you just trick kind of people with different designs. So after you decide the concept, then you go into animation stage, and you decide what kind of animation can we do. And even with concepts, it's so cool. Like with a Fox Sports MLB graphics package, you choose different textures. How can you be, in other words, there's this challenge. How can you take stuff that's literal and make it not literal? Like, how can you make a lower third, but then relatable to the league, the MLB league or NFL? And then you would use their textures. You would use their, something football related, like a chrome, and you just play off of that. And even animation, for example, you creating something for baseball, what kind of animation can you do? It's like, pow, big hit, breaking, or it can be sliding to the first base. So you'll have like a text sliding in. Sorry about that sound effect. But yeah, you get creative. You study the game, you study the league, you study the textures. And a lot of times it's like if someone's asking you to draw a tree and you know nothing about the tree, then you're going to have what we call creative block. But if you study the tree, if you look around and look at it closer, what's in it, then you'll have too many ideas. You'll have too many things you can play off of. Then even the shapes and everything else, it's a lot of fun for me. I enjoy it because there are so many things you can go into with sports graphics. They essentially provide all the stuff you need. You just need to go and look for it.
There's unlimited possibilities, especially because they are so fast. So you can do lots of different types. You can build like pipes, you can build 3D worlds, you can there's so much you can do, but I feel like the one constant that is throughout all of the graphics that you do, and that also we see a lot in the sports world, is that everything is moving. Pretty much everything, you have some sort of either like a zoom, or there's something that moves across the screen. You're constantly directing the viewer's eye to a certain place because you have such a short amount of time. You need to be able to direct the eye. What would you say is a tip for when you are creating a motion graphic to make something stand out or to direct a viewer's eye in a certain way?
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of it, and I have too. So obviously you only have a couple of seconds to get the attention. So you don't want to populate it too much. You don't want to throw a lot at them too much. You definitely, whatever it is you want them to look at, you want that thing to pop. And you can do that with contrast. That's probably not the best one. And then you throw color. Color is subjective in sports graphics because it dictates based on the team and maybe the color of the graphics package. But the first one is contrast. Make sure, and even like secondary motion, sometimes you have like a loading bar, like you kind of direct your viewer to that area. You do some kind of animation like boom, 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 and I look at that area, your eye catches it, and then you slam something right into that area. So you develop over time these tricks. And again, another thing is, like I was mentioning, sewing something or placing something that people relate size-wise, like a little screw or something to where they're gonna see that it's even bigger in their eyes. There are a lot of different tricks you can use, but that's definitely one of the most common ones. And yeah, motion, like you can sell a lot with motion. I always say in sports graphics, especially, if nothing is moving, it's kind of like a comedian. If nobody's laughing, that comedian is very nervous. Like if I create graphics and nothing is moving, even when it's showing that text, if nothing is moving, I'm really nervous. That's why we throw in secondary animation, some kind of smoke, particles, something. And that's probably one of the best tips and tricks that I would share with sports graphics.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for sharing the tips and tricks. I think it's about that time for me to start my tutorial. But before I let you go, if you could just tell the people where they can see more of you and where they can take your awesome tutorials that, by the way, I've definitely taken your tutorials and watched them before. So.
No, we have a YouTube channel, Ukramedia, youtube.com/Ukramedia, but we also have a website, ukramedia.com. We're on Twitter. Just look us up. We're everywhere. We have a community that you can join. It's a free community on Facebook. It's ukramedia.com/community. And we have some legends of this industry in that community. They're so quick to help. That's probably the heart of what we do. It's that community. So I highly recommend.
It's a Facebook group?
It's a Facebook group and it's free to join. It is a private. We try to keep it private, but
Okay.
yeah.
But
So
you're all invited.
everybody's invited. Everybody's invited. And thank you for having me on. This was fun.
Thank you for being on. I can't think of a more perfect person because today I am covering expressions. So
Yep.
this is something you are well versed in and have made a lot of videos about. So thank you so much, Sergey.
Yeah,
and I'll see you online and maybe in person at some future date.
Yeah, for sure. Take care.
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. So that was our chat with Sergey from Ukramedia. I am so excited that he was here to chat with us because, like I said, I follow him. I take his courses, and I've learned a lot about graphics from him. I'm also very self-taught, as you will probably learn in this tutorial, is that Valentina may not know the exact term for the thing that she's using. She knows how to use it, and that is what is important. So let me pull up my screen here, and let me also pull up my expressions notes. Okay, so you remember last week we made a couple of different graphics. We made this graphic of this arrow that is growing, and we were able to use this graphic in order to add it to different footage. So for this one, where was it? Was it? I actually don't remember where it was, but for this one, we had the arrow grow and we could change the size and we can change the rotation of the arrow. Let's actually just throw it into here, for example. So it was this one. We could just put that in. We created this in After Effects for Premiere Pro. So this was a little graphic that we could use. And then it's scalable dynamically by time. So if we made it shorter, it would actually grow faster. Mute all this. We could also change the color of the arrow if we wanted to. We can change the position of it. So we learned about a couple things having to do with how to use motion graphics templates to make things, to create visual graphics like this arrow. We also created a transitional element. So it was this one, the tri-line transition, on how to transition from one to another, from one piece of footage to another using a transition like this. And then the options that we did for that transition were color options. So you could choose different colors to match with whatever vibe you were going with for your particular video. So these were motion graphics that we created without using any kinds of expressions in After Effects. They dynamically scaled, they dynamically adjust responsively to time. And if you would like a refresher on all of this, you can always go to adobe.ly/tipstuesday in order to be able to see that. Today, we are building on top of our knowledge here by making motion graphics that have text, that incorporate text, and that incorporate text boxes that grow and scale with the text size and with the text input, and a couple of other things as well that include expressions. So with something like this, let's go to a clean, bright, new comp. And let me actually make sure that my zoom tool is working as well. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you can see me zoom into the screen when I go like this. If you can see me zoom into the screen, just give me a little, just give me the word squirrel in the chat room. So here is a brand new composition. If we go to composition settings, we can see what it is. It's 1920 by 1080 square pixels, 23.976 frames per second. And we're going to give it a name. So we're going to call this basic rounded text box. zoom out, press OK. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to add the text. So we go up here to the horizontal type tool, and we're going to type our text. Usually what you'll do is you'll use some sort of placeholder text. So in this case, we will type in main, and we'll go back to the selection tool. Now, a couple of things about this text. First of all, the text itself is not in the center. Second of all, the anchor point of the text is not in the center of the text itself. So let's precisely put everything in the center. First of all, let's move this anchor point. So we'll select that layer. We'll go to Layer, Transform, Center Anchor Point in Layer Content. And whenever you go to any of these menus, you can also see that there is a shortcut. For me, I don't have the home button on my keyboard. It doesn't exist. So I'll just use the menu. So now we can see that the anchor point has been placed in the middle. If it wasn't in the middle, like for example, let's put it back at the bottom, and we wanted to, for example, we wanted to transform the scale of this, it would grow from that anchor point, right? But if we want to put the anchor point in the middle, so we go to Layer, Transform, Center Anchor Point and Layer Content, and now we want to change the scale, it scales from the middle. That's why it's important to put the anchor point in the middle. And now let's just make sure that for paragraph, we are center justified. So yes, we are. And then for align, which is a very, very fun feature, we can align this vertically and horizontally. So now our text is right in the middle and our anchor point is in the middle. So for scaling, our text scales this way. And let's just find a good size. So I'm going to select that, make it a little bit smaller. Yeah, make it a little bit smaller. Do that same thing. Make sure that the anchor point is centered. And so is the alignment. Cool. So now we have one layer, right? We're going to add a second layer, which is the text box behind it. So we'll go up here to the shape controls and we'll choose the rounded rectangle tool. And then we'll make a rounded rectangle. It'll look however it looks like by default, but now we get to adjust it. So the first thing we do is we'll go ahead and put this layer underneath the text layer so we can see the text layer through it by just dragging it down here. And let me just make sure that my pen tool is visible. So now we have our shape layer underneath our text layer. And then here in the shape layer controls, we can go and adjust what we need. For example, the stroke. I don't want this layer to have a stroke. So I don't want anyone to have a stroke, honestly, but this layer especially. So we'll go to stroke width and we'll just type in 0 pixels. And that way there's no stroke. Then we want to also place this layer in the middle. So we'll align it to the middle. We want to make sure that it's like just clearing the text on either side. There we go. And let's make sure that the Yes. Okay. Hello. Okay, so we're back. Sorry about that. One sec, because I can hear myself talking twice. Okay, so let me know if you can see me, if you can hear me by giving me the word um, Blue Jay in the chat room. We are trying this out, like I said, for the first time. So technical difficulties can and will happen. And it's live. So let me know what the last thing that you saw me demonstrate was. Did you see me put the text box there? If you did, perfect, because we haven't lost anything. Thanks, Jessica. Jessica says, welcome back. Dave says, is the big orange question mark part of the demo? Yeah, that was intentional. That was the actual tutorial. I was just making a big orange question mark in the middle of the screen. Looks like I'm getting a lot of blue jays, which is good. So definitely, if you saw me draw the box, let me know. If you didn't see me draw the box, I'll draw the box again. You know, we're in that box life right now. So let me know. Omar's in the chat room. Hey, Omar. What's up? So if you didn't see me draw the box, I could do it again. Just let me know if you saw me draw the box before it, did the thing that it did. Just waiting on that. Okay. So let me just draw the box again. So let's go make a new shape. So I'll draw any old box that looks good to me. I'll put it underneath the main text. And then I'll make sure that the roundness is a little bit rounder. The stroke, I will just get rid of the stroke with. I will put it where it needs to be, right behind our main text. And I can make sure that it aligns over here by pressing align horizontally and align vertically. And there you should have your text box. But the problem with your text box is that it doesn't change dynamically with the text input, right? So how do you do that? And also, if everybody, if you already know, if you're more advanced and you already know expressions, that's cool. This is for people who don't know expressions. So I'm not going to be talking about anchor point expressions or anything too complicated in this tutorial because this is for beginners. So if you are a master at this already, then good job. All right. So then we are going to select our text box, which is underneath of our text, and we're going to add a slider control. Now, remember last week we used those slider controls as expression controls. In this case, we're going to use slider to help give us a little bit more padding to our box. So we'll go in here into effects and presets, and we'll type in the word control. And here under slider control, we're just going to go ahead and drop that slider onto our shape layer. Nothing happens, except now underneath here, it has added the slider control effect. So we can go ahead and rename that, and I will rename it padding. And we will leave it for now. Now, time to write an expression. Our expression is going to refer to the size of this text box as it is relative to the size of the text from the first layer. So we'll go over here to rectangle path size, and the stopwatch next to size, we are going to enable the ability to write expressions by holding down Alt and then clicking on it. That should make, oh, that also activates my zoom tool, but that should make the actual text here or the actual values red, and it should open up this expression editor, and we can actually make it a little bit bigger so we can see what we are writing. And right now all it says is that the size of the rectangle is the size of the rectangle. Cool. But we want the size of the rectangle to be something different. So we are going to say that the rectangle is actually, we're going to call it box. So we're going to say the variable box, Now this is a little bit of algebra. Yeah, so box is just a variable. The variable box is equal to, and then we are going to pick whip to our main text layer. So we're going to take this pick whip control. We're going to take this pick whip control, and we're going to pick whip our main text layer over here. So you say the variable box, pick whip this main text layer. So it's going to say this comp layer main, which means that layer. It's just a pointer to that layer. Dot, and then here is our main expression, source rect at time. And if you start typing, you'll see them show up right here. So we're going to use source rect at time. Source rect at time. And then we need to put something in those parentheses. We do not. We just close it off with a period apostrophe what's it called? This symbol. I forgot what it's called. Tell me in the chat room because I'm blanking. Then we're going to make a second line because we have said that the value for box is going to be the source rect at time expression of the previous layer. Now we have to make another variable for the padding. So we're going to say the variable for padding is, and now we're going to say the effect on the current layer. So the effect that we've added that is called padding, right? In parentheses. So the effect padding, because we've named it padding. And what is that effect? That's on a slider. So we're going to say slider. And then close off that line. And now we actually get to insert what we want those values to be. So we are going to say, and those are between the hard brackets, we are going to say that the box width plus padding, whatever that padding is going to be our X value. And then the box height plus padding is going to be our Y value. And then we're going to click out of it. So as you can see, it has now adjusted the box to the size of the text, but because our padding is at 0, there is no padding on either side, right? So that's where we go into our little padding slider and we add some padding to it. And we can adjust it. If it's too fat on the top and bottom, we can go over here to transform rectangle and change the scale over here. Something like that. All right, so now check it out. Now if we go to the main text and we add more, main text, it'll add more. Perhaps we should, and then we can always adjust the padding as well. So the padding slider to make it bigger. So we're going to use both the source text and the padding slider. We're going to add that to our template so that when whoever's using the template in Premiere Pro, when they're using the template, they can not only change what the text is, but they can also change the padding and they can change stuff like the colors and the opacity of everything. So let's do that. Just like we did in the previous lesson, we are going to, so let me put this back on main. Just like we did in our previous lesson, we are going to add some expression controls using a null layer. And null layer is just going to like hold our expression controls. It's not going to mean anything. It's not going to actually show up visually. So we're going to go to layer new, null object. And you can see a representation of it with this like red box, but we don't even need that. So we will hide it over here. We will rename this expression controls. So it's just going to be our little Puppet Master controller. Then we're going to go to effects and presets and let's put in some controls. The first thing we're going to do is color control because we have two colors here. We have the color of the text and we have the color of the box, right? So we'll put in two color controls. We will also put in a slider control for the opacity of the box. So let's put in one slider control and another slider control for the padding. And let's do a point control for the location of where this is on the screen. So let's do a point control. So now if we open up all of our effects controls, there they all are. We have the 2 color controls, the 2 slider controls, and the point control. We can rename them for our sake. So for color control, we will say text color. For this color control, we'll rename it and we'll say box color. This is going to be box opacity. This is going to be padding. And then this is going to be position. Oh, actually, let's add one more for scale as well. So let's add one more slider control in here. And we'll call this scale. There we go. So one thing for the position and scale is if I change the position and scale of either of these, they're going to change independently, right? So if I go ahead to the main transform controls of this main layer, and let's say I want to change the position or scale of either of this, it's going to change by itself, right? We want the box to go ahead and follow it. So we're going to go to the box layer, the shape layer here, and we are going to parent it to this text layer by clicking on the pick whip again here and just parenting it to the text layer. So now if we change the scale of the text layer or the position of the text layer, the box follows it. So now that we have all of our expression controls here, we are going to select the expression controls layer. It pops up over here under effect controls, and we are going to press the lock icon. So we're going to lock it up here so that we can then assign those expression controls to our layers. For text color, let's do something like bright green so you can see it better. For box color, let's do something like dark blue so you can see it better. Right now, they are not linked, so you don't see the text color as green. You don't see the box color as blue, but we're going to link them now. So we'll go to the text. We'll go to text. Let's put in a little fill. So we'll go to fill, generate a fill, put it onto the text layer. So now we can have an option for the fill. And for color of fill, we'll just go ahead and pick whip it to, we got to go back to the effect controls. It's locked up here. We're going to pick whip the color of the fill to the text color. So now that text color becomes whatever the text color is up here. So we can change it to pink if we wanted to. We can change it to white if we wanted to. There we go. The other thing that we want to make sure is that the transform controls of the text layer arrange with the transform controls that we've made here in these sliders. So right now the text layer is at a position of 960 by 540. So, and this slider for position, or this point control for position, is at 50-50. So if we pick whip it right now to the position here, it'll change the position of our entire box to 50-50. So I'll have to just default that back to 960 by 540 so that it's back in the middle. Now also we want to change the scale as well. So we'll take the scale property and pick whip it. Right now the scale is at 0. So you guessed it, if we pick whip the scale, it'll disappear because it's at 0. So we'll put the scale back up at 100 so we can see it better. And then a couple things. So that's it for the main text layer for now. Now we'll go into the shape layer. And there's a couple of things that we want to adjust, right? We want to make sure that the fill color matches whatever this box color indicator is. So we'll take the fill color property. We will pick whip it to the box color. And there we go. Now, as you can see, when we pick whipped it, that actually made an expression. We didn't have to type anything in, but it made an expression. Look, it's here. If we drop down and we look at it, it made one. And it says that the color of this fill is actually the layer inside of expression controls. It's the box color effect inside of expression controls. So it's made an expression for us. And lastly, we want padding and box opacity. So we'll go over here to the padding slider. Right now it's at 315. So if I pick whip it to the 0 in the padding expression, it'll be 0. So I'll write in 315 to get it back to where it was. And then the transform controls over here for opacity, we'll go ahead and pick whip it to this box opacity. It's default at 0. So let's make it 100. So there is our little, we have now outfitted this particular template, but we have not made it a template yet. We have rigged it up. This is something that Sergei does a lot, right? Somebody will give him something like this, and they'll say, rig it up in order to make a template. So now let's actually make the template. Essential graphics panel, and we'll choose the composition. So this is called basic rounded text box. We'll choose it over here. Basic rounded text box. There's nothing here yet. So let's go ahead and put all of our expression controls in here. So we'll go to, we can close those up. We don't need them. We'll go to expression controls. We'll open all of these expression controls up so that we can drag them in to our essential graphics window and make them editable, make them part of the actual template. So let's drag the color, and that is text color. Let's drag the box color control, box color, we'll call it box color. Let's drag the box opacity as well, box opacity. We'll put the padding in, box padding, and I'm making it all caps. We'll put the position, we'll put it at the very top. So we'll say position, because that's going to be what is the position of everything, right? So we'll leave it at 960 by 540. We'll put the scale up here as well. Scale. Go. And that is all. However, right? So now we can change the scale, but we can only change it from 0 to 100. So if we wanted to give people the option to make this bigger, we'll go to edit range. And instead of the max value being 100, we'll say, let's say the max value is like 400. So let them change it. The default will be 100, but let them be able to do it 400 if they want to. Same thing for opacity. Well, opacity is fine because it's 1 to 100 anyway. But for box padding, it can either be less than, well, that is too small, right? Or it could be up to 100. We want the default to be 315, right? So we'll go to edit range. We'll say the default value should be 315 for that padding. And we want it to go from, let's say, 200 to 1,000. So we'll give those options. So by default it's 315. It can only go down to 200. That way it doesn't clip, the text. And it can go up, but it can't go further than these two bounds. So we'll leave the default value at 315. Okay, so now that we've given all of these options, the last option that we need to give is the actual text input, right? So we'll go up into the text controls, and that is this one, source text. It's the very first one. We will drag the source text control right up here to the very top, and we'll write text. Now, if you change the source text up here instead of main, maybe it's maintenance. And then, of course, we can change the scale and then add a little bit of padding, and voila, now it's the word maintenance if we wanted to. But let's just keep it as main. We'll give it a name. So right now it has no name. We've selected the master that we've renamed, but we haven't named the actual box or the actual template. So we'll call it basic rounded text box. Poster frame, which is the thumbnail, looks good. And we'll just say export motion graphics template. Save it. Yes, please save. Now here you have the option of adding it to your library or adding it to your local folder, and you can put some keywords. So we're going to say this is a static template. This is just a text box, one line, curved, or padding. We'll just add some keywords and we'll say, okay. It's going to say, I'm not using Adobe fonts because I'm being bad. You do want to use Adobe fonts, but for this one, I kind of wanted a curved font to go with the curved theme. In fact, I think the font I'm using has the word Adobe in it, so it's weird. Okay, and now we'll go here to, let's say we have a project going on our timeline, we want to add some sort of text here at the bottom. So we'll go to our Essential Graphics window, and it should pop up right at the very top here because I've saved it to my library. I'll go ahead and drag it in, and there it is. It says main. So if I don't want it to say main, say I want it to say Dana Clayton, which is the name of this model, we'll go ahead and scale it down. We'll change the box color to red. We'll add a little bit of more padding to it. There we go. We'll change the box opacity. We'll take down the opacity. We can change the scale of the entire thing, and then we'll position it at the bottom left. And there we go. We have created what is essentially a motion graphics template that we can edit whenever we want to, and we can turn it into whatever we need to. However, we cannot change the font. Bummer, right? Just kidding, you can change the font. So let's go back into our Adobe After Effects here. We have not made the font editable. So if we go to this Edit Properties button right next to the text, we can click on it and we can enable custom font selection, font size adjustments, and faux styles. In this case, let's just do the custom font selection and let's just do the faux styles because we have the font size adjustment as a different slider. And we'll say, okay. And now let's change that to basic rounded text box 2 so we can see the difference. We'll export that motion graphics template. Let me know in the chat room if you are enjoying or if you learned anything new. And here it is, that new text box. So let's just drag it on top here. We'll disable the bottom one by pressing Shift E. So this is our new one. So now we have these text properties that are available. So we can go ahead and choose a different font. Aha, something like that maybe. And we'll do faux styles so we can even make it a little bit more bold, or we can add the bold in here, what have you. And then we can go ahead and adjust it the way that we need it to be. So there's so much stuff that you could do with creating motion graphics templates. You just have to know the tools to create them. Now, I do want to show you one last thing. If you're down for it, let me know if you are down for it. Caroline, are you down for it? She said she's down for it. Okay. So let me, now that I've like potentially blown your mind with this, let me blow your mind with something that's a little bit more complex that I built the other day. So this is a very similar template. Let's go to this one. And let's go see it over here. So this is a similar template, but there's a bunch of things playing. First of all, you have the same thing. You have your main text and you have a box behind it. This is built the exact same way that we just built the main text and the box. However, I also have some top text and some bottom text, and I have a background layer. The interesting thing about this template is that it's actually 3 templates in one. That's right, it's 3 templates in one. So how do you do something like this? Well, let's see. I keep having to do that. Okay, wait, no, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to go into Premiere. So the way that this looks like when it's done is, let's bring it into here, find it in our browser. So when this template that I'm currently building, it looks like this. Ta-da. Do you see the way that it came in with that animation with the two boxes? Well, I have different ways of it animating in the same template. It has the two boxes that are coming in with the text on top fading in and out. But if you go to the edit controls for it, over here, under animation style, there's 3 different animation styles. So if I go to animation 1, it comes in like this. If I go to animation 2, it comes in like this. But of course, we have the same stuff as before. We have the box padding. We have the size, but here you can change the box size independently. So you can change, you can change the circle size here independently, but you can also change the tracking of each top and bottom. So if I wanted to write something like change the main text to testing, there we go. And then the top text, maybe I could say Caroline is. And now it's a little bit smaller, right? So we want to increase the tracking of the top like that. And then underneath, we'll write how to live stream. And it's a little bit, we can also change the tracking. So Caroline is testing how to live stream. And then we could maybe change the opacity of the background. We could change the box text transparency, which is a checkbox, right? So instead of having the white text, we can just show what's underneath instead by just checking the box text transparency. And then we can change the controls over here. We can change the box color to something like pink. Caroline is testing how to live stream. Bam. And we can change the entire size of that and move it around. So how did I do that? How did I build in 3 templates into one and add a little checkbox control for that main text? That's what I want to kind of walk you through. So here we have the template, but let's actually look at how I built the After Effects graphic. So it is built on what are called pre-comps. So it is kind of like a Russian nesting doll. It's a comp within a comp within a comp. And different comps turn each other on or off or interact with each other. So in the main comp, we have only 5 layers. We have the layer for expression controls, which is just the same way that we did last time. This is where all of those expressions live, except there's quite a few more of them in this case. There is the main text color, second text color, background color, box padding, animation style, position. There's a lot, right? There's a lot of different controls here. I also have the text itself. Now you can see that the text here isn't actually visible because all I'm using these texts for is literally the words. I want the words, whatever words are written on screen, to come from here. The source text is coming from here. See, if I enable it, it's actually not even part of the template. And then our entire template lives within this one subcomp. That's the only visible subcomp. It's called animations. So if I disable it, you can't see anything. If I enable it, you can see the whole thing, right? So if I double click into this subcomp, you will see only 3 layers: animation 1, animation 2, animation 3. It is important that those are the only layers in this animation because the drop down menu control works in such a way that the order of the layers is the order that they show up in the drop menu control. So each of these has one expression, only one, that is added to their opacity, property. So we'll pull up the opacity property, for example, for animation 1 by pressing T. That is the opacity property. You can see it's red, which means I have added an expression. So if we open up the expression and we read it and what it says, it's a very, very simple expression. And All these expressions are, by the way, at adobe.ly/tipstuesday. Basically, I gave it, again, I gave a, this is just a variable. This is something, in algebra, this is like solve for X, right? X or Y. So I called it style menu. So I'm saying the style menu, which is the drop-down menu. Style menu means that when you look into the main comp, which I just showed you the main comp, the main titles after template, that's what the main comp is like. So when you look into the main comp, and then you look into the layer expression controls within that main comp, and then you look into the layer effect animation styles, take that value. So what does that mean? In the main composition, under expression controls, under the thing called animation style, is this value, right? So that's what I'm saying. I'm pointing to the main composition. I'm saying in the main composition, in the layer called expression controls, in the effect that's called animation style, take this value. So that is exactly what this first line means. I'm saying in the main comp, in the layer expression controls, in the effect animation style, take this value. And I called this value style menu, right? That's what I called the value. So the next one is saying if the value style menu is equal to index, and index is literally the layer that this is on. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So if this value is equal to 1, please make the opacity of this layer 100. If it is not equal to 1, meaning if it is equal to 2 or 3, make it 0. And that's all that means. So it means if the value of that drop-down menu is 1, then we show this layer. If it is something else, then we don't show this layer. So this expression control I added to everything. So if I type in T and I open up the opacity and I open up the expression controls of everything, you'll be able to see that the same exact expression is under all of these layers. So take a look. Right now, this animation 1 layer, the opacity is at 100. Meanwhile, the opacity of the other ones are at 0 and of 0. If I go ahead and change the animation style drop-down menu over here to animation 2, for example, see how it changes the opacity of animation 2 is now 100, and everything else is at 0 and 0. If I go to animation 3, now animation 3 is at 100, and it's at 0 and 0. Does that make sense? So basically, I'm showing or hiding different subcomps based on what this menu says. So let's go to animation 1. So animation 1 looks like this. If we go into animation 1, double click. So here are some more controls and some more subcomps. The first one we see is the background here. And the background is just has a slider on it, right? So our background slider over here see not the background disappears, but all the text disappears, including the top and bottom text as well. So it's all together in this one subcomp. And this subcomp has position and scale expressions. So the position expression is saying, take this, take the position controls of this layer up here, position of box. And the scale is saying, take the expression controls of the effect scale of graphic in the slider. So up here. So if I lock these up here, you'll be able to see them a little bit better. So this is saying instead of the scale number, take the scale number from here, take it from scale of graphic, this one right here. So it is basically connecting. I'm using expressions to connect different values from different comps together to make them all work together and interlink. So scale of graphic. I know this is a little bit more advanced. Perhaps I could do a more advanced one later, but I just wanted to give you a preview of what it could look like if you wanted to. If I go into this all text subcomp, double click on it, look at that. I have a couple more subcomps. Now I have this text independently, top text here, bottom text here. But I also have the box itself here. So if I enable disable the box, this is the box itself. I can go in another subcomp. And now I finally got to the very last Russian nesting doll, which is only 3 layers and only 2 of them are enabled. So I have this middle box. I have, if I disable it, you'll see a box underneath. And then the top one is disabled because I'm using it as a track mount, kind of like as a cookie cutter. So the box underneath grows at the same size as this box because I pick whipped it to this box. It is a child of this parent. So as this parent grows, let's say I put in some text here, main text here. So now as this parent grew, so did the box underneath. Or if I just say main, so the box underneath is pure white and it changes depending on what the size of the green box is. But I need it to toggle on and off because if it's off, we see there's nothing behind. It's transparent. So if it's off, this back box, if I toggle it off, we see that the letters themselves become transparent. If we toggle it on, the letters become full. So I added a checkbox control to the opacity. So this is what this means. It's an if-then statement. And it's just one line. And it says, if the checkbox is on, so this is the transparent main text checkbox. It says, if the checkbox is on in the main composition, in the expression controls null object, in the effect transparent main text, if the checkbox is on, which in coding language, it's the way that you say it is equals true. So if the checkbox is on, if it equals true, then the value of the opacity is 0. If it's off, then the value of the opacity is 100. So I'm only giving you 2 options. I'm either giving you 0 or 100. And they are determined with whether or not the checkbox is on, aka whether or not it is true. So that is why when I toggle the checkbox up here, box text transparency, right now it's off, right? So if I toggle this right here, you'll see that the number of the opacity changes between 100 and 0. And if I make it black for the background, you can see that it toggles between 100 and 0. So again, what I've done is you kind of go through the rabbit hole. You have the main template over here with all of your expression controls. Then inside, you just have this one layer that controls everything, that has everything in it. Inside that one layer, you have the 3 different types of intro animations. You go into each intro animation, you'll be able to see just the background layer and also the text layer. You go into the text layer, then you have the top and bottom text layers. And again, the top and bottom text layers, if you even look at them, you'll be able to see there's an expression for source text. So for source text, I'm saying go back to the main comp. Go back to that layer called bottom text here and use that text instead. So if I go back to this layer, bottom text here, that's the source I'm using. And then and then. So it's like a Russian nesting doll stuff. It's really hard to explain actually in 1 hour, but I did my best. And I think, oh, you lost audio for a second, but I think it's back. Okay, good. Okay, well, hopefully that was helpful to some of you. This is, I will say, the most difficult process that I have ever taught. So if you want to get the full manual for this, you can go to adobe.ly/tips Tuesday and you will be able to get the full manual and you'll be able to see what I was doing. It's all written out here, including the actual expressions that I was using. So you can go ahead and you can even copy paste those expressions into your own projects. Again, go to adobe.ly/tips Tuesday to be able to get that manual, because I may not be able to cover everything in extreme detail in a 45-minute presentation, but I have covered it in excruciating detail over text already for you. Until next week, where we are going to be talking all about how to shoot in-ad interviews. We're going to be back in Premiere Pro. We're going to be back to easier stuff, but also super important stuff. A lot about not only the technical side of editing interviews, but also about the theory of how to conduct and edit interviews, what to keep in, what to take out, how to do multicam, all of that we will cover next week with one of my absolute favorite documentary filmmakers of all time, Alex Horowitz, who we are very, very lucky to have. So definitely come back for that. If you learned anything new in this tutorial, it looks like my video went back to being a gray rectangle. If you learned anything new, then let me know in the comments down below. And we will try to get all the technical issues sorted out for next week. I think for our first time doing this kind of remote live streaming thing, it went well. And we will just keep on getting better. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.